Okay, so hopefully we're doing it. And I'm going to start recording and we'll go from there. All right. Hi. Hopefully, I am on all the things. Um, I am here to talk to you guys about the practice playbook. So, we're in the final days of the practice playbook challenge, and there are three aspects of the practice playbook itself that we didn't really get to touch on this last one in the challenge for a variety of reasons, and I'm sure you'll understand what they are as soon as we get to that point. So, the third part of the practice playbook is the performance aspect. Okay, so how you are physically, how you are emotionally, how you are prepared, and how that preparation informs the rest of it. Okay, so sometimes we will talk about performance practice, which is something I know is in classical music a lot, which because of the era that perhaps the music comes from, there were standard practices that people had during performance. For example, operas went through a period of time where they did a lot of gesturing and affect instead of real emotional acting that we kind of think of today. When we see an opera, we see this high drama, or even a Broadway play, or even someone just on stage singing a song. There's this element of higher drama that was kind of removed a little bit very far back in the Baroque and even the early to mid classic period. That evolved in the Romantic period and the later classic period to include more natural acting as opposed to this prescribed gestures that mean certain things. So that's a performance practice. So it's important to know what you're working with at any given moment in order to be authentic in that performance. Nowadays, those practices really aren't practiced, but they're important to know if you're going to be seeing those kinds of pieces, because they can inform, even if you're going for a more natural style, they can inform that information for you. So that's one of those things. Another thing that you could look at for performance practice is the style. So if you're doing a song and it happens to be from the 1930s, you want to know what the style of singing was from that time period for this particular kind of song. So you have a little research to do. Okay, nowadays we have contemporary singing styles. Those include technique, things like twang and female falsetto, not to be confused with falsetto as we understand for the male voice, and as is interpreted more in a classical setting. Falsetto now has this sort of breathier quality to it, but that's not really what falsetto is. Falsetto was created as a term because it is a false voice, and a breathy voice is not a false voice. So it's kind of a misnomer, but that's what people are using, and language is language. So, and then of course there's chest voice, head voice, these different ways of interpreting the language in song are important. You have to make choices, and you need to make those choices in practice, not when you're on stage doing the thing. If you don't have a plan, it will come across a little bit like you don't have a plan. So this also goes with speakers. So if you're giving a speech or a TED talk or something like that, you want to make sure that you're aware of how you're delivering things. You want to be aware of your diction. You want to be aware of your pacing. You want to be aware of your body language. Is your hand drifting? Singers, I know we do this all the time. Some of us conduct ourselves, and we don't even realize we're doing it. So your best friend is a mirror when you're preparing. A mirror or a video camera, so you can go back and look after the fact. Whatever it is that you can use that will inform you what's happening physically. So that's another piece of the performance practice. Then we also have the emotional aspect. what part of our personal emotions versus those of a character or the overall feel of a piece of music, or even what you're trying to impart on stage as a speaker or an actor. How are these things coming through in the most authentic way possible, most believable way possible, without your own stuff kind of polluting it? So, for example, you have, butterflies in your stomach, right? And you feel nervous. So, something like that could show up unbeknownst to you in a presentation, in a performance, by a shaking hand, a wobble in your voice, an inability to catch your breath and sustain it. These are all things that you want to be aware of in performance, not just necessarily memorizing your words or your music, or both. It's not just that. Once you have the things memorized, and then you work it into your body, then you work the performing of the text, the performing of the pitches, so that it comes across as naturally as possible, even though you've rehearsed the heck out of it. So when you are practicing for performance, it is very important to be aware of all of these things. How prepared are you? Are you really prepared? How is your body reacting, unbeknownst to you? And can you perhaps replace that with intentional movements so that you don't feel like you're not doing anything, right? Again, you practice that performance. These are all things that come into play, and you can really just never go and wing it. I don't recommend winging it. You do want to be open to, because anything can happen in live theater, right? You want to be open to flexibility, but you still need to have a plan. So if you're also finding yourself in that more nervous or stage fright category, where the idea of performing is very frightening, there is some personal work that you might need to do in advance of that. Take a look at maybe what it is that's causing that for you, that you're feeling, that could possibly be informing. And it could even be something you're not even aware of. It could be something from your childhood. I know I was speaking with a woman recently who really has a hard time presenting projects at work. And she was saying that she knows exactly why she feels that way. And it's because when she was 4 years old and she gave her first dance recital, she froze. And unfortunately, instead of being encouraged and given an opportunity to process it in a healthy way, she was instead belittled by her father. I know, it's heartbreaking. But something like that will stay with you, and it will inform you and how you're showing up in ways that you're just not even, you have no control over. But you have to excavate that. You have to work through that, because it will always come and interrupt in one way or another. So anyway, my whole point is that this is actually what I do a lot with my clients in my bigger programs. When I work in small lesson packages and things like that, or with young people, there is a little bit of self-confidence and self-esteem work and stuff, but this heavier stuff is what I do more somatically and more holistically in my bigger things with my adults. And if you have something that is like me, where I went through this. I have wanted nothing more than to sing and share all of that with whoever's willing to listen for my whole life. And every time I went to do it, I could practice and I could be really good and I'd know exactly what I wanted to do. But when it came time to get on that stage, my body betrayed me. I couldn't catch my breath. I mean, come on, breath is everything when you're a singer, right? I couldn't catch my breath. I couldn't sustain the support mechanisms. My heart would race. I had to go to the bathroom. I mean, all of these things would come up for me physically that didn't make sense at the time because I was really prepared. But it had to do with junk from the past. So I've been able to work through that, find a new perspective, and as a result, I really enjoy performing now. I really enjoy the opportunity to connect with the audience and to share with them a little piece of me at the same time as the art, which honestly is the point, isn't it? The art. Anyway, if you have any questions or want to come join me in my Facebook group or anything like that, I will put the link in the comments on YouTube, and we'll be in touch. I hope you have a wonderful day. If you have any questions regarding things that you have, maybe in terms of getting up in front of other people that would maybe need a little work, anytime. Ask me anytime. I'm willing to help, and we can go from there. So I hope everybody has a really wonderful week, and I will see you next time for Technique and Tactics Thursday live. Have a great day.